The room fell silent the moment the millionaire's voice cut through the noise, sharp and confident, echoing across the crowded hall as cameras zoomed in and the audience leaned forward, because everyone knew what those words meant when spoken by a man who owned cities, worth of glass and steel. "I'll give you $100,000 if you solve this," he said, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth as he tapped the whiteboard behind him. A board filled with numbers, symbols, arrows, and conditions layered so deliberately confusing that even seasoned mathematicians in the front row exchanged uneasy glances. And the millionaire loved that reaction. He thrived on it, thrived on watching intelligence hesitate under pressure, because to him money was proof of superiority. And moments like this were his theater, his proof that wealth and wisdom always walked hand in hand. And then he added almost casually, "But you won't." Laughter rippled across the hall, polite at first, then louder, because who would challenge a man who had publicly humiliated professors, entrepreneurs, and prodigies alike with puzzles designed not to be solved, but to be surrendered to? And yet at the very back of the room stood a boy no one noticed at first. Thin frame, worn shoes, hands tucked into sleeves that were a size too long, eyes fixed not on the millionaire but on the board itself, absorbing everything in silence. And this boy had no name anyone knew, no credentials printed on a badge, no seat in the front row. He had wandered in because curiosity cost nothing, and curiosity was all he owned. And as the millionaire continued explaining the rules with dramatic flair, stressing time limits and false paths and penalties meant to intimidate, the boy's mind moved quietly, not racing, not panicking, simply seeing, because some minds don't attack problems. They dissolve them. And when the millionaire finally stepped back, arms crossed, daring anyone to approach, seconds ticked by like hours, hands stayed down. Pride wrestled with fear in every potential challenger, and then a murmur rose as the boy began walking forward, slow, calm, each step echoing louder than applause ever could. Whispers spread like wildfire. Who is he? Is he serious? Does he even understand the problem? And the millionaire laughed openly now, a deep, confident laugh meant to crush hope before it could stand upright. "Son," he said, not unkindly but dismissively, "this isn't a school quiz." The boy stopped 3 feet from the board and looked up. Not intimidated, not impressed, just attentive. "You said you'd pay if it's solved," the boy replied, voice steady, and that steadiness unsettled the room more than shouting ever could. Because confidence without arrogance is rare, and the millionaire raised an eyebrow amused, waving a hand as if granting permission to a child to play pretend. "Go on then." And the boy didn't pick up the marker, didn't ask a single question, didn't scan the audience. For reassurance, he simply looked, and in that silence something shifted, because the cameras caught the millionaire's smile fading just slightly as the seconds passed. 1, 2, 3. And before anyone could process what was happening, the boy spoke. "The answer is 47. Gasps erupted instantly. Laughter followed. Some mocking, some nervous, because that was impossible. The puzzle was designed to trap solvers in layers of conditional logic. No shortcuts, no intuition allowed. And yet the boy had answered without calculation, without writing, without hesitation. And the millionaire scoffed, shaking his head, already ready to dismiss it as nonsense. But something compelled him to check, because arrogance hates being ignored. And as he walked to the board, retracing the steps he himself had engineered, his confidence began to fracture. Not loudly, not dramatically, but internally, quietly, because every path led to the same result, 47. And the room transformed from skepticism to shock in real time, as murmurs turned into stunned silence. And when the millionaire finally stepped back, his face had changed, the smirk gone, replaced by disbelief he couldn't fully hide. "How?" he asked. And for the first time in his life, that word carried humility, whether he liked it or not. And the boy shrugged gently. "You built it to look complicated," he said. "But the pattern is simple, once you ignore what doesn't matter." And that sentence hit harder than the answer itself, Because it wasn't just about numbers. It was about life, about distractions, about how wealth often confuses importance with complexity. And the millionaire swallowed hard, pulling out his phone, transferring the money on the spot because his reputation demanded it. But money suddenly felt small in his hand, and the audience erupted, applause shaking the walls. Not for the prize, but for the moment, for the reminder that brilliance doesn't ask permission. And as the boy turned to leave, the cameras followed. Because stories like this don't end at answers, they begin there. And if you felt that shift, that spark, that reminder that greatness can come from anywhere, don't let it pass you by. Subscribe to this channel now, because the next chapter reveals who the boy really is, and why this wasn't luck. It was destiny unfolding in 3 seconds. No one noticed the boy leave the stage at first, because the room was still, trapped in the aftershock of what had just happened. The kind of moment that bends time and leaves people questioning what they thought they understood about intelligence, money, and power. And backstage, the millionaire stood frozen for several seconds after the applause faded, staring at the whiteboard as if the numbers might rearrange themselves and prove him right again. Because men like him don't lose gracefully. They rationalize, they search for flaws, they convince themselves the universe glitched. And yet, no matter how many times he replayed it in his head, the truth stayed stubborn and unmovable. A boy with nothing had dismantled something he had built to intimidate the world. And that realization followed him long after the lights dimmed and the audience went home, because later that night, alone in his penthouse surrounded by glass walls and city lights, the millionaire couldn't sleep, the silence louder than any applause. And what haunted him wasn't the money he gave away. It was the look in the boy's eyes. Not pride, not triumph, just calm certainty. The kind that comes from understanding rather than ego. And meanwhile, the boy walked through dark streets with the same calm steps. He had walked toward the board, passing neon signs and luxury stores that reflected a life he had never lived, clutching nothing but the thin jacket on his back and the knowledge that for the first time someone powerful had seen him, even if they didn't yet understand him. And as he reached the small room he called home, a single rented space above a mechanic's shop,